Thank you for being here. It means a lot. I have so many wonderful faces that I know in the audience. I appreciate that. A couple of orders of business. If you have a cell phone with you, if you will turn it off. I just turned mine off, and I'd like you to do the same so we don't have extra distractions. A brief message about where the exits are. If for any reason we had to exit rapidly, there's an exit right there on the right side at the back of this room. Also, you can go downstairs, and there's an extra exit down that way or the way that you came in. So every year, I have a theme that I use for the Holocaust Remembrance program. And this year, the theme is about using our strength for healing. And you've probably heard the phrase Tikkun Olam, we heal the world. It's kind of a basic. In modern day Judaism is something that we really try to adhere to, that we have a personal responsibility to help heal the world, and so you'll hear things about that today. In my mind, sometimes it's our great teachers who are our best healers, and Mira Kimmelman was one of our greatest teachers and one of our greatest healers. So today we're going to hear a lot about Mira's Holocaust experience and what she taught us as a survivor. We will also hear about a concentration camp that Mira wanted us to know about, Terezin, and how lies were used to prevent the outside world from knowing about the genocide of Jews. We'll also hear about a woman who didn't survive Terezin. She was a healer herself, and she was the first female rabbi. And then, of course, we'll also hear from Mira's son, Benno, who's here today. And I wanted to mention one quick story about Mira. She was the person who taught me how to face what is difficult and do that by finding my inner strength. And she planted that seed for me when I was 12 years old. She was my Hebrew school teacher, and at 12 we were starting to prepare for our bat mitzvahs. And I went up to her and said, I will not be having a bat mitzvah. And she didn't flinch. She said, that's your decision, but my expectation is that you will participate in this class and that you'll learn everything that you would learn if you were having a bat mitzvah. So I stayed in the class, and I learned, and then something happened. I had a change of heart about 2 months before I was supposed to have my bat mitzvah. So I approached Mira again, and I said, I do want to have a bat mitzvah. Again, she never said out loud that she understood the reason why I didn't want to have one is I had terrible stage fright, which I have to this day. But she believed in me, and it helped me realize that I could do it anyway, whether or not I was afraid. So, almost 60 years ago, I stood on this bema at this lectern, and I faced my fears because she taught me to develop my inner strength and to use it for all that is good. So what can the Holocaust teach us about living during this particular time of hate? It teaches us the need to face what is difficult and help heal the world, one person at a time. So we'll start with our candle lighting service. Steve, if you'll come up, and I'll be calling the candle lighters up by name. So the first candle, sometimes we can't light things. The first candle to honor the children who perished in the Holocaust will be lit by Rachel Carlson. Did you?
Children, remembering over 1.5 million children under the age of 16 who died in the Holocaust, stripped of their childhoods, their potential forever left unfulfilled. Children had the lowest rate of survival in concentration camps. We shall not forget.
Thank you, Rachel. The next candle will be lit by Chuck and Beverly Greenfield for the mothers and fathers.
Remembering all the parents who perished, who tried to protect their children, so many mothers who went with their children into the gas chambers rather than be separated, we shall not forget.
Thank you. The next candle is for relatives, the family members. Will be lit by Becca Batterina and Aaron Clifford.
Remembering all the sons and daughters who perished, so many never had a chance to say goodbye to their parents. Some spent years after the war searching for lost siblings or a lifetime grieving them. Remembering all those extended family relatives who died in the Holocaust, leaving some families without any grandparents, aunts, uncles, or cousins, we shall not forget.
Thank you. The next candle is for teachers. That will be lit by Dale Rosenberg and Sheila Morton.
Remembering the teachers in the community who, along with other leaders, were often the first to be murdered. Remembering all the teachers who continued to teach, even when it was forbidden, and punishment meant death.
We shall not forget.
Thank you. Now the candle for resistance fighters will be lit by Robert and Alice Mark.
Remembering the Jews who fought bravely as partisans in resistance groups that operated under cover of the dense forests of Eastern Europe.
The armed and unarmed resistors in the ghettos and camps, and individual acts of defiance that so frequently led to immediate death. We shall not forget.
Thank you. The 6 candles are for the righteous among nations, lit by Dorothy Devan and Julie Kinder McMillan.
Honoring the righteous among the nations, an honor bestowed by the state of Israel to non-Jews who risked their lives to save Jews from the Nazis. They were ordinary human beings, and it is precisely their humanity that touches us and should serve as a model. We also honor all those who stand together against hatred of all kinds.
We shall not forget.
Thank you. And the last candle is one that we added after Mira Kimmelin passed away, and we are so fortunate to have Benno in person today to light that candle.
honoring and remembering my mother for all that she did to share her personal experiences so that others would learn from the Holocaust. She impacted so many in this community, including teachers and students of the Holocaust. It is up to all of us to carry forward her legacy. May her memory be a blessing. We shall not forget.
Thank you. And now, Charlie, if you'll come forward. Councilman Charlie Hensley will read the city proclamation.
I wanted to first say that I met Miss Kilman back about 2015 or 16, right there, sitting right there. And she let me hold her hand during this ceremony, and it was very touching. And I think of myself that I was born in January of 1945. And Miss Kimmelman, it brings me to tears when I think where she was in January of 1945. But here is the proclamation that we presented to Ronnie at the City Council meeting on April the 14th, and it says, you'd think I wouldn't be afraid of microphones, wouldn't you? Whereas the United States Congress established the Days of Remembrance as the nation's annual commemoration of the Holocaust, which this year is observed from Sunday, April 20th to Sunday, April 27th, 2025, and whereas 6 million Jews, including 1.5 million children, were murdered during the Holocaust, and whereas the history of the Holocaust offers an opportunity to reflect on the moral responsibilities of individuals, societies, and governments to ensure that lessons of tolerance, acceptance, and respect for all people are taught into perpetuity. And whereas we, the people of the city of Oak Ridge, should always remember the terrible events of the Holocaust and remain vigilant against hatred, persecution, injustice, and tyranny. And whereas a Holocaust study is available to the community through the Oak Ridge Institute of Continued Learning as the Mira Kimmelman Holocaust Education Study Group, led by teachers Steve Reddick, Dale Rosenberg, and Dorothy Devan. And whereas, while we have lost most Holocaust survivors, we now look to their legacy, including their children, to help us to remember, with Miss Kimmelman's sons continuing to educate by speaking to students in Oak Ridge schools. And whereas we therefore declare the observance of the Days of Remembrance with a Holocaust Remembrance program to be held Sunday, April 27th, 2025, at the Jewish Congregation of Oak Ridge, in honor of those who died and those who survived, and in appreciation to those who teach the lessons of the Holocaust. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the City of Oak Ridge, Tennessee, that April 27th, 2025 be proclaimed Holocaust Remembrance Day in the city of Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and that all citizens be encouraged to participate in this event in remembrance of those lives who were lost or forever affected during this time in the world's history. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the great seal of the city of Oak Ridge to be affixed this 14th day of April in the year 2025, and it's signed by our mayor, Warren L. Gooch. And thank you for this honor.
All right, we will move to our readings. So if the first readers, oh, did I skip? Oh, I did skip, sorry. Sorry to confuse you. My helper over here gave me the, well, no, that's not what we're doing. We want the chorus to come up. There are two songs they're going to sing. The first song, Song of the Partisans, is a song of resistance that was selected by Mira Kimmelman many years ago. And this year we're also adding a new prayer called the Mishaberach that is very well known in the Jewish community.
come to the end of the way. The wedding stars blot out the light of the day. The hour we all long for will surely appear. Our steps will thunder with the words, we are here. The hour we all long for will surely appear. Our steps will thunder with the words, we are here. From lands of palm trees to far lands of snow, we come with anguish, we come with grief, with pain and woe. And where our blood flowed right before our eyes, there our power will bloom, our courage will arise. And where our blood flowed right before our eyes, there our power will bloom, our courage will arise. The glow of morning sun will kill the bright today. Night's darkness vanish like the enemy cast away. But if we perish before this dawn's begun, this song's a message passed to daughter and to son. But if we perish before this dawn's begun, this song's a message passed to daughter and to son. In blood this song was written, and not with pen or quill, not from a song, but flying freely as he will. Sung by a people crushed by falling walls, sung with guns in hand by those whom freedom calls. Sung by a people crushed by falling walls, sung with guns in hand by those whom freedom calls.
Thank you. And now we will move to the readings now. So if the first readers will come up.
All Because She Was a Jew. Story of a Survivor by Sheila Dotson. Mira was born on September 17th, 1923, near Danzig. The Nazis were occupying the city in the late 1930s, and conditions for Jews deteriorated. In 1939, at the age of 15, she, along with her parents and her younger brother, were ordered out of their apartment and deported to Warsaw. There, it was mandatory for her to wear the white armband with the blue Star of David. By 1940, Poland was in Hitler's hands, so she and her family escaped Warsaw and went to live with extended family in the ghetto area of the city of Tomaszów, all because they were Jews.
At the age of 19, she, her mother, and other Jews were marched to the railroad station. They were being sent to Treblinka. As they were marching toward the railroad station, she was pulled out of line because she was young and able to do forced labor. Her mother went on, and that was the last time she ever saw her loving mother again, all because she was a Jew.
At age 20, she was forced to travel by cattle car to the Blizen concentration camp. There, she was overseen by cruel SS men who gave her regular beatings. Her barracks were invaded by rats that ate her food, clothing, and bit her on her cheeks, hands, and legs. For 15 months, she lived in crowded barracks with no sanitation and lice infestations, all because she was a Jew.
Now almost 21 years old, she found out that she was being sent to Auschwitz-Birkenau. She sat for 3 days and 3 nights in a crowded cattle car. There was little water and almost no food. When she arrived, the women and men were separated and she was alone. As her father and brother walked away, she turned and saw her 16-year-old brother's beautiful face for the last time, all because they were Jews.
Columns of young, old, women and children walked in complete silence to the bathhouse and imminent death. Her head and body were shaved, and she had to sleep in one bunk with 4 other women with no blankets, pillows, or mattresses. She had a number tattooed on her arm. She no longer had a name, but rather a number, A15744, all because she was a Jew.
Then came the selections. Anyone with a handicap was chosen for either medical experiments or death by Dr. Mengele. She immediately took off her glasses and ground them into the earth in order to survive. Later that year, she was sent from Auschwitz-Birkenau to Auschwitz-Hindenburg, a satellite of the mother camp, to work in the camp office and became ill with typhus. One day, in January 1945, when she was 21, the order came to evacuate the camp. They were lined up to leave the camp on foot on a death march with the hope of reaching the city of Gleiwitz. It was the dead of winter and she was not in the best of health, still recovering from typhus. Those who could not walk were shot, so she trudged on the steadfast determination. From Gleiwitz, she was boarded onto an open coal car and sent on to Bergen-Belsen. As she arrived at the camp, she saw mountains of dead bodies. She slept on the floor of the barracks with over 200 other women. The floors were filthy and covered with human feces. Many of the women died. The water pump had been destroyed, so many of them resorted to drinking their own urine. Hunger was painful, but thirst was excruciating, all because she was a Jew.
Then one morning, the SS guards in the towers were gone. She heard approaching tanks and was overcome with joy when she realized they were British. She and the others were fed powdered milk diluted with water until they were able to digest food properly. She was now down to 80 pounds. Finally, she was liberated on April 15, 1945. Later, she was reunited with her father and met her soon-to-be husband, who was also a Holocaust survivor. In the end, 20 members of her immediate family were killed. Only she and her father survived the camps, all because they were Jews. She was free, but was she?
Mira received the Nadine Finane Award from ORUUC in 2016 for her dedication to the teaching of the Holocaust so that the memory will not be forgotten. Ronnie Bogart accepted the award for Mira on her request, and these are some excerpts from that speech. While some might have allowed a traumatic event to define them, Mira did not. I didn't think of her as a Holocaust survivor, but as a teacher. While some might have allowed their hearts to turn to stone from the overwhelming losses of family, friends, and community, Mira did not. She married and had children and has more friends than anyone I know. She taught me to keep my heart warm and open to love, even in the face of insurmountable loss. While some might have spoken out in anger and felt bitterness against their oppressors, Mira did not. She spoke out only for peace and tolerance and taught me to do the same. While some might have turned their backs in disgust on other religions for their failure to act, Mira did not. She taught me that all religions at their core have the same goals and must be respected and treated equally. While some might have turned their backs on God as either helpless or cruel or non-existent, Mira did not. She taught me God was not responsible for the Holocaust. Human beings were. She lives a life rich in the Jewish tradition and taught me to do the same. While some might have pushed this horrifying experience deep into their subconscious, Mira did not. She told me that every time she speaks about it, she relives it. She taught me to face the horror, to speak out about the unspeakable, and never forget. While some people might not learn to process loss in a situation where survival was the imperative, and grief had to be postponed for years, Mira did. She embraced fully the elements of knowing when to grieve and when to live. She created a path for all of us to walk beside her and honor the more than 6 million murdered in the Holocaust. It takes courage to remember, to teach others, and to live. She has that courage. Now we must have that courage.
Mira Kimmelman, in writing about Terezin, described it as a small town overlooking the Bohemian Mountains, which was built by Habsburg Emperor Joseph II as a garrison town and named it after his mother, the Empress Maria Theresa, calling it Theresienstadt. When the town became a civilian town, it never housed more than 8,000 people. The Czechs named it Terezin, and in the 1930s, the inhabitants included 10 Jewish families. In 1939, the Nazis annexed this part of Europe. Czechoslovakia became a German protectorate, and the Terezin again became Theresienstadt. In 1941, it became a ghetto administered by the SS, guarded by Czech gendarmes, and administered by the Jewish Council of Elders. Because it was once a garrison city, barracks were made of bricks, ready to receive the first transport of Jews. Each transport had to prepare the barracks for the next one. Soon, the Jewish population in this so-called model ghetto numbered 60,000. Prominent German Jews, like Dr. Leo Beck and many others who served in the German army in World War I, were among the privileged inmates of this ghetto. They even had to pay to be able to get there. Deceived from the beginning and told that they were in protective captivity, all who came to Terezin had to work hard, suffered from hunger, and died of starvation or disease.
In 1943, 700 Danish Jews, those who did not escape to Sweden, arrived in this ghetto. Because of the urging of the Danish king, the International Red Cross sent a delegation to Terezin to make sure that the Danish Jews were treated well. The Nazis created in Terezin a Potemkin village, a phony town with shops, coffee houses, and a theater. People were given clothes to dress up. The Nazis were masters of deceit. The Red Cross members were easily fooled. They even filmed the model ghetto with all of its privileges, taken by the end of the war, and the Danish Jews were the only ones during the war to receive Red Cross packages. All the Danish Jews were taken by the end of the war to Switzerland, and all survived. In spite of all the hardship, cultural life thrived in Terezin. There were schools for the children, an orchestra, theaters, and ateliers, studios for the artist. All this to disguise the true purpose of this ghetto. It was an ante-room for Auschwitz, for the killing of European Jews. When in May 1945, Terezin was liberated, of the 141,000 Jews who passed through this ghetto, only 16,000 remained alive. Of the 15,000 children in this ghetto, only 92 survived. Not one of the surviving Jewish children were under 14 years old.
Mira writes, while I was visiting Terezin 10 years ago, one of the most moving moments was when I saw a wall of one of the ghetto buildings painted with pictures by the children who once lived there. One was a drawing of a rosebud with the following words, "A small, very nice boy, nice as a bud. When the bud will open, there will be no boy anymore." These children lived with hope, but also with the fear of death. They left us a wonderful legacy, their moving and touching poems and pictures they drew. It is most appropriate that our children keep their memory alive by reciting some of their poems. Today we remember not only the 15,000 children of Terezin, but the 1.5 million Jewish children who perished in the Shoah. May their memory be a blessing.
Miriam frequently included information about Terezin, or Theresienstadt, and her Holocaust Remembrance programs. The poems from children were especially important to her. From the book, I Never Saw Another Butterfly. At Terezin, when a new child comes, everything seems strange to him. What, on the ground I have to lie? Eat black potatoes. No, not I. I got to stay? It's dirty here. The floor. Why look, it's dirt, I fear. And I'm supposed to sleep on it. I'll get all dirty. Hear the sound of shouting, cries, and oh, so many flies. Everyone knows flies carry disease. Oops, something bit me. Wasn't that a bed bug? Here at Terezin, life is hell. And when I'll go home again, I can't yet tell.
The first female rabbi was Regina Jones in Germany. Even as a young girl, Regina Jonas wanted to become a rabbi. In an environment that knew no female rabbis, in which religious leadership was purely a male matter, Regina vehemently pursued her dream. With great determination and tenacity, she broke with convention and prejudice to pursue her religious vocation. In 1935, Regina Jones became the first ordained female rabbi in history. But it had been a hard road. While Jonas's career was ascending, albeit in fits and starts, conditions for Jews in Germany were going downhill fast. The Nuremberg laws, excluding Jews from German society, were passed the same year that Jonas received her ordination. Jonas gained prominence traveling to communities whose rabbis had either emigrated or were arrested. She was not given a congregation of her own, but continued to teach, visit the sick and elderly in hospitals, and serve as a chaplain in the women's prison. Jonas, too, was urged to leave Germany, but she said she couldn't abandon people who were suffering or leave her mother, with whom she lived. In the spring of 1939, she wrote in a rabbinical commentary in the Jewish newspaper that the Nazis' persecution was a trial by fire, testing the strength of our love for children, gratitude, the mutual support of family and friends in these alien conditions. In early November 1942, Jonas and her mother were deported to the Theresienstadt concentration camp in Czechoslovakia. The Nazis had established Theresienstadt as a model concentration camp to try to fool the outside world about how they were treating Jews. She worked in the ghetto's Department of Mental Hygiene, set up by psychoanalyst Viktor Frankl. Her job was to receive the traumatized deportees who came straight from the trains into the ghetto, ripped from normalcy, and thrown into a terrifying new reality of overcrowding, sickness, and despair. Regina offered them guidance and comfort, explaining the harsh realities that awaited them, but assuring them that she would be there to offer her help to accompany them and to support them spiritually. In the harsh reality of the ghetto, she devotedly pursued her mission and fully exploited her potential as a spiritual shepherdess. What I find most extraordinary about her, Professor von Kellenbach said in an interview, is that she decided to deny the Nazis the power to define Jewish life. Jonas was deported to Auschwitz on October 12, 1944. It is believed that she was killed the day she arrived, on October 14th. She was 42. Her story possesses a what if. If the Nazis hadn't devastated European Jewry, would she have inspired a generation of female rabbis the world never got to know? These words were the last that Regina Jonas wrote down in Theresienstadt before she was departed to Auschwitz. To be blessed by God means to bestow blessings, goodness, and loyalty, regardless of place or situation.
An excerpt from People of Dead Jews by Dara Horn. The Holocaust did not happen because of lack of love. It happened because entire societies abdicated their responsibility for their own problems and instead blamed them on the people who have always represented, the thing they are most afraid of, taking responsibility. Since ancient times, in every place they ever lived, Jews have represented the frightening prospect of freedom. As long as Jews existed in any society, there was evidence that, in fact, it wasn't necessary to believe what everyone else believed, that those who disagreed with their neighbors could survive and even flourish against all odds. The Jews continued their distinctiveness, despite overwhelming pressure to become like everyone else. They demonstrated their efforts to cultivate that freedom devoted to law, story, deep literacy, and obsessiveness about transmitting those values between generations. The existence of Jews in any society is a reminder that freedom is possible, but only with responsibility. People who hate Jews know this. Societies that accept Jews have flourished. Societies that reject Jews have withered, fading into history's night.
David Schwimmer's Never Is Now. Speaking out comes with cost, but there are so many people who do have our back those that are our allies that tell us that we can get through this together. Our spirit unbreakable, our joy irrepressible, our story impossible. And we, as Jews, are resilient, generous, and strong. But some of my heroes have chosen to keep a low profile or work behind the scenes. I wish they would speak up and stand up. We could use a little solidarity right now. We don't need you to say something political. We don't need you to solve the conflict in the Middle East. Just say that you stand with your Jewish friends, your Jewish neighbors, your Jewish colleagues against hatred and discrimination. Say that what is happening on our college campuses, in our schools, into our Jewish-owned businesses is unacceptable. Say anything in solidarity with the Jewish people. The time that we are in currently, with the terrifying global rise in anti-Semitism and the normalization of hate speech and the physical attack on Jews, calls for leadership and risking that personal comfort. Elie Wiesel said that the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. The opposite of love is indifference. It is silence. Indifference is silence. So here's the truth. Now is not the time to disappear. It's a time to show up, to connect, and find strength in our community, together. It's a reminder to the Jewish people that we are not alone.
Will you let them know that what you're going to do is on the back of their program?
Yeah. The reading we'll be doing is from a piece that Lucas Richmond, some of you may have known him, wrote based on something Leonard Bernstein said at another very sad time in history with violence and after JFK had been assassinated. And Leonard Bernstein had said, this will be our reply to violence, is to make more beautiful music. And you've been hearing some music, and we'll hear some more. And it is something we can remember in our remembering in healing the world. So this will be a responsive reading that all of you can join in. I'm going to read the Hebrew, and Joel will lead you in the responsive reading. It's on the back of your program, the program on your yellow sheets. And I will read, each paragraph in Hebrew, and then you can read together with Joel for the English. This will be our reply. Azor lanu lahavin. Manuchal la'asot neged alimut. Manuchal la'asot.
Help us to understand. What can we do in the face of violence? What can we do?
Lema'an batenu, lema'an chavarenu, lema'an kador ha'aretz, tikkun olam.
For the sake of our homes, for the sake of our friends, for the sake of our earth, heal the world.
Lema'an kihilotenu, lema'an medinotenu, lema'an kador ha'aretz, tikkun olam.
For the sake of our communities, for the sake of our countries, for the sake of our earth, heal the world.
Aleinu letaken et ha'olam.
We must repair the world.
Lema'an imotenu, lema'an avotenu, tikkun olam.
For the sake of our mothers, for the sake of our fathers, heal the world.
Lema'an benotenu, lema'an banenu, aleinu letaken et ha'olam.
For the sake of our daughters, for the sake of our sons, we must repair the world.
Lema'an sichlenu, lema'an simchatenu, lema'an ha'ava tikkun olam.
For the sake of our knowledge, for the sake of our joy, for the sake of our love, heal the world.
Lema'an ha'shalom tikkun olam.
For the sake of peace, heal the world.
Lema'an minishmotenu, lema'an hemshech kiyumenu, aleinu letaken et ha'olam tikkun olam.
For the sake of our souls, for the sake of our future, we must repair the world, heal the world.
Thank you. Now, if the chorus will come back up and lead us in I Believe. Thank you. And now we have our closing speaker, Benno Kimmelman.
Rabbi Ronnie, thank you for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to be here. I certainly cannot do what my mother did for many years from this podium. And so I will not even try to do that. In preparing for today, two things caught my eye. The first is a publication that was released by the Conference on Jewish Material Claims Against Germany in January of this year, often known as the Claims Conference. It's called the Index on Holocaust Knowledge and Awareness. And what it says, and I'm not a social scientist, but one doesn't really have to be one, to understand the import of what the press release indicates and what the study shows. It's something that I think all of us know, and we've known for a long time, and that there is a growing global trend amongst people all over the world with respect to what the Claims Conference calls a fading knowledge of basic Holocaust facts. 8 countries were surveyed. They included the United States and various countries in Europe. And some of the findings are what we all expect, and some of them are a little shocking. Many of the respondents had very little awareness of the Holocaust, or had an awareness of things they thought were facts that are just clearly not true. This is particularly true among young adults, those age 18 to 29, and they seem to have the greatest gap in terms of knowledge about the Holocaust and what it was and what it meant for the world. There was also an interesting finding and this is true particularly among respondents in the United States, that there was a sense that, or a belief that mass genocide against Jews could happen again. A finding that I would never have expected to be the case in January of 2025. And there were findings with respect to the fact that Holocaust denial and distortion runs rampant around the world. And none of this in some sense is surprising, but it's nonetheless shocking and disturbing, because if never forget means never forget, then these can't be findings that are acceptable to anyone in any place in the world. And so it's clear from even a cursory review of that there is a desperate need for Holocaust education, and we know that. And thankfully in Oak Ridge, we and many people in this room have done something about that. And it's a process. We've started, and it's going to take a long time. But it can't start just here. It has to start everywhere. And it's actually quite late to be starting, but it's all the more necessary when you see the findings of the survey. But when I thought about what does it mean for there to be Holocaust education? Now, of course, I never had to deal with that issue, because I've known it since before I could speak, even though I didn't know what to call it. And I didn't need to be educated about it because I was surrounded by it. When I grew up, every single friend my family had, were survivors. Their stories were different. Their survival was miraculous, each in a different way. And they could regale you with stories that were just unbelievable. And yet they were all true. So when I thought about Holocaust education, I thought about the question of what does it mean to remember? This is a day for remembrance, and what does that mean? And I'm not a clergyman. Religion's not my area of focus, nor am I really a full-time teacher, although I spend a lot of my time teaching. I do think a lot about what it means to remember and what it means to remember the Holocaust. And it's really not just about memory and remembrance in the way we normally think of those words. It's really about, I think, learning and teaching and sharing. And there are a number of respects in which that needs to be done. I think it has to be done on a very personal level. And by that, what I mean is that our knowledge of the Holocaust is really, we can describe it in terms of millions, and we can describe it in terms of abstract concepts, but that's not really what the tragedy is all about. the tragedy is about human beings, men and women, children, brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers. And so it's about people, and we must always remember the people who we lost. And then the question becomes, how does one do it? In my family, again, it was never hard to do because I knew the names. I knew who the people were. And miraculously, I even had some pictures to show, to prove that who they were and what they did. But my congregation in New York has done something which I think is helpful in trying to keep the memory of individuals, of people alive. And that is, the congregation asked every member to submit the names of all their family members that had perished during the Holocaust. And the names kept coming in. And the list kept growing longer. And for every Yom HaShoah, the list is broken down alphabetically, and members of the congregation read each and every name. Now, a name is not a story about who the person was and where they lived and who their family was and what they did and who their parents were. But it is an identifier of a particular person. And when you read the names in alphabetical order and you see how many of the same last names are on that list, it tells you something about the Holocaust that 6 million does not convey to the human mind. And so it seems to me that that's an important thing to do, to make a list and to read a list. But then the question is, well, what if one's fortunate enough that they didn't have any relatives who were in Europe at that time, or they don't really know whether they did or not, and they don't have any names to add to the list. And that's another thing that I have found disappointing about Yom HaShoah I think in the United States, and that is too often it is thought to be an event for those who know they lost relatives. And if one were fortunate enough not to know that or not to have lost anyone, and there are many for whom that's the case, they don't feel it's a holiday or an event, a commemoration, a remembrance that is part of their calendar, that it's something that they should observe. And I think that's a failing in how we teach the importance of this day and this week in the United States. It's not just for me and for my family, it's for us and for all of our families. And so I think that's the personal part of Yom HaShoah that is very important to capture. But beyond the personal, there is another part, and I know my mother felt very strongly about this, because the Holocaust is not just a human issue. It's not just a Jewish issue. It's a societal issue for every single society in this world. Because it's about what we allow to happen, whether or not we participate or not. And it's not just about what happens to us, it's about what we allow to happen to others. And although sometimes people say doing nothing is neutral, with respect to the Holocaust, and I think with respect to most things in life, doing nothing is not neutral. Doing nothing is doing something, and doing something that is harmful to someone else. And so, if Yom HaShoah and the Holocaust are really societal issues, then we probably need to work harder to do what we just heard is done in Oak Ridge. It's important that it's a day that's recognized not just in synagogues, but in every house of worship, in every village, city, county, and state and country, because it's about what we did as a society or what we didn't do. And if we don't learn about it and teach about it, we all know the risk that it shall be visited upon us again. But there's also another side to Yom HaShoah, and again, my mother always emphasized this. And it's a day to remember and to honor those who did good. And there were many who did much that is good and much that risked their lives and their well-being. And the goodness of people is illustrated in so many different ways. But it struck me when I was reading the newspaper yesterday morning that there was a current example that is I never would have imagined. Yesterday I read a headline in the paper to an article that said, Amsterdam horribly abandoned Jewish residents in Holocaust, mayor says. Earlier this week, at a Yom HaShoah observance in Amsterdam, the mayor spoke. And the mayor spoke beautifully. She apologized to the Jewish people of Amsterdam. She couldn't apologize to those whom she wanted to apologize to because they had perished. And she apologized to them for the failures of local government during the Nazi period. And I was so moved by it, I wanted to share with you some of the words that are hers, not in Dutch, but in the English translation that was available. And this is some of what she said. And it's really, it's an amazing speech. She said, quote, anti-Semitism was not brought to the Netherlands by the German occupiers, nor did it disappear after liberation. Hatred against Jews, including in this city, has always been there and is still there here today, close quote. She went on to talk about what the local government did or didn't do during the period that the Nazis had occupied Amsterdam. She said, quote, administrators and officials were not only cold and formalistic, but even willing to cooperate with the occupying forces. How did they cooperate? She said, by implementing a registration requirement for Jewish residents of Amsterdam. This was an indispensable step in the isolation, humiliation, deportation, dehumanization, and murder of 60,000 Amsterdam Jews. And then she concluded by saying the following. But the inescapable conclusion is that the municipality has failed morally. Never was there a clear no to the occupying forces from City Hall. Services were willing to help implement one anti-Jewish measure after another. Step by step, the municipal apparatus became part of the machinery of evil. When it came down to it, the Amsterdam government was not heroic, not determined, and not merciful, and horribly abandoned its Jewish residents. On behalf of the city administration, I apologize for this. And then she concluded, history cannot be undone, but it is our duty to keep the memory of all victims of the Shoah alive. Here in this guilty place and at the Holocaust Museum, at the Names Monument on Dam Square and at the thousands of Stolpersteine in our city. Also as a warning and as a reminder not to look away from contemporary anti-Semitism and all other forms of racism. Hard to imagine any leaders that I can imagine in the world could write and make a speech like that. And so here we are 80 years after the end of the war, after the liberation of all the concentration camps. And it's clear we have so much more to do. So much more to do to remember and to teach about the Holocaust. And I think it's probably also true, and I think we all know it, it's always been the case that we've never done enough, and there was always so much more to do. But I think it's never seemed as important to do it as to do it now. And the education that it really calls for is really, at its core, very simple. It's really all about treating a stranger or a neighbor as we would want to be treated ourselves. And that's why what we do here is so important. So my thanks, Ronnie, to you for inviting me. I have to tell you that if I had told my mother what you told her about bar or bat mitzvah, there is no doubt in my mind that the response would have been terribly different. But I also know that she made a very wise and deliberate choice in deciding how this program, which she so loved, would be organized and changed in the future, and putting it in your hands was one of her better decisions. And she made many good decisions, but clearly this was one of the better ones. So I thank you very much for having me and for allowing me to be part of this day. Thank you.
Cottage first. On your green paper, a two-sided paper, we'll begin with the mourner's Kaddish, and this Kaddish includes the names of the concentration camps. So I invite all who are able to rise in body, and if not, to rise in spirit. We recite together the traditional mourner's Kaddish on the left, with the intercession of the names of the camps in the central column. Please join me as you can. Yit Gadal Auschwitz, V'yit Gadash Lodz, Shmei Rabba Ponar, Bi'alma Divra Kirute Babiyar, V'yamlich Malchute Medainek, B'chayechon uvyomechon Birkenau, Uvchaye Dechol Beit Yisrael Kovno, Bagalau Vizman Kariv Janauska, V'imoru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevarach Leolam Ulalmei Almaya, Yitbarach V'yishdabach Terejenstadt, V'yitpa'ar v'yitromam Buchenwald, v'yitnaseh v'yitadar Treblinka, v'yitale v'yitalal Vilna, Shmei de Kudisha, Brich
hu Bergen-Belsen, Le'ela Mauthausen, min kol birchata v'shirata dachau, tushbechata v'nechemata Minsk, da'amiran bi'alma Warsaw, v'imru amen, Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim alenu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, alenu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru amen. On the other side of your green sheet, the English for El Male Rachamim, for the Shoah. Please join me. God, full of mercy, you who dwell in the heights, shelter them beneath the wings of your presence, high among the holy and the pure, who shine like the brilliant heavens. Shelter them. Shelter the souls of our sisters and brothers of the house of Israel, who were slaughtered in the Shoah, small children, women, men, strangled, suffocated, burned to ash. They revered your name, their souls passed into your care. Let Eden be their resting place. Master of mercy, drape them and keep them forever in your protecting presence. Bind their souls to the living and to life. God, you are their sustenance. Use them with peace. And we say, Amen. In a moment, I'll chant the Hebrew of what we just read together. And after that, we invite you to go out into the lobby and receive a candle for you to light in your homes. And again, to say how much we appreciate your presence today and your commitment to allyship. El Male Rachamim, Shochen Bameromim, Ametzeh Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Hashechinah, B'malot Kedoshim Utehorim, Kezohar Harakia Mazhirim, V'nishmot Kol Acheinu B'nei Yisrael Shenitbechu v'shoah, Anashim, Nashim v'taf, Shenechneku v'shenisrafu, v'shenehergu, Shemasru et nafsham al kiddush Hashem, Began Eden tehi menuchatam. Ana Baal Harachamim Hastirem Beseter Knafecha Leolamim Utzror Bitzror HaChaim Et Nishmotem Adonai Hu Nachalatam V'yanuchu v'shalom al mishkavotehem v'nomar Amen.
Thank you. I appreciate this so much. And like we said, there's candles out there. They're in yellow bags. Feel free to get those. And those of you who were readers and candlelighters, I want to take your pictures, so hang around. Thanks.